So the process of philosophical counseling for me is made of two parts. The first part is to understand in what way I am locked inside this little life that I call perimeter, but is also, you can call it Plato's cave. It's the same idea. Right, so we are locked in this. We have to understand how. This is the first stage. To understand, we usually don't understand. To understand that we are locked in a little automatic superficial world. And the second stage is to try to go beyond. To find in ourselves the resources, the voice, as I say, that will somehow transform us, that will make us our life deeper and more interesting, fuller. Now, I worked on the first part. Okay, what is exploring our perimeter. This is stage one. The stage two, what I call is stepping out of our perimeter. And we have to remember that it's different for each one. Right? Maybe Buddha would work for me, not for you. Maybe for you, Plato would work very well. So this is the first stage in the process. It's a long process, and this is the same. In the past, I worked mainly on this. And so most of my writings and some videos are on this. And I would like to share with you that this is relatively easy. I mean, if you get the skill, you sit with a counselee already in the first session, you can see the smallness of the world. And after 3-4 sessions, you'll have a pretty good idea of this perimeter, this limitation. And the counselee can learn it quite quickly. But this is more difficult, and this is what I have been working on. Okay, it's not finished, and I hope that you would be interested too, right? If I understand my limitation, that does not yet free me. Right? How do I free myself? I don't want to give a lecture now, but let's see a video. So what we will do is, I will show you the video so you'll get the idea of what I'm looking for. And then we'll do some exercise. Okay, we will divide into pairs, and we will do some exercise. But to do the exercise, we need to have some idea of that. So let's start with the first video.
Hello, Autumn.
Hi.
Autumn, what would you like to talk about today?
Okay, I'm going to need some help maybe trying to articulate this, but I'm interested in following this idea of making more of a commitment, of maybe becoming ordaining myself as a Buddhist priest. And so the question and the issue for me is, you know, how do I keep my relationship and my world that I have now, and what does that mean, and how do the two fit together?
So are you sometimes concerned that the possible sacrifice that you will have to make is something that would not be possible for you? Or you would not be willing to do?
Yeah, I concerned, more just curious. Concerned is a strong word, so I don't. It's not so. Yes, maybe it is. It's It seems like it comes down to taking the step. Just kind of making a commitment instead of just staying in this safety zone of it being in my mind. It's like getting more proactive. In other words, one thing that happened I got introduced last spring to a woman who lives in the area who is in fact a Buddhist priest, And so I kept making arrangements to get together with her to have this conversation, actually, to find out, what do I do now? And we had a couple of attempts to get together, and then, because of my condition, my health problems, I couldn't. I had to cancel appointments. She went away to Japan, so we never made it happen.
So what is it that attracts you to becoming a priest, or meditation, or all this field?
I think the part about the priest is I see a need. I see a need for people to have some counseling, some person who can be help facilitate, whether it's through when someone dies, or there's some conflict in the community, or in a relationship, in a family, to have some kind of platform, some kind of guide for
So you would have liked to be such a guide?
Yes, sometimes I feel called to that.
So far, if I understand correctly, so far you have had a lot of meditative practice,
Yes,
right? Can you say a few words about it? What was meaningful in that?
Yeah. I think what I appreciate about it is it's not, for me, it's not a dogma. It's really a very practical technique that distills, for me, it's an experience of letting the sediment of my mind and thoughts just kind of shed.
Is it because in a life without that meditative aspect there are too many sediments in your mind?
Life without that, without the meditation, doesn't feel, it feels disconnected.
So the connectedness comes from
Yep,
going
the
inside?
dot, yep. It starts to feel. And then what's really fascinating for me, Ron, is that the right choices that become, it's not so complicated.
So, as a consequence, you now practice meditation every day. Can you tell a bit about your practice?
The practice? Well, I am fortunate in that I have the opportunity to focus on myself and my life, right? Because I'm not employed. So it doesn't. I'm not consistent with the time. Like, for example, when I go to a retreat at 4:30, the bell rings and you're sitting on your cushion. I don't have that consistent time. But every morning, depending on the flow, I get into my cave and I sit. And it depends. Maybe it's anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes.
Autumn, you said that in 2000 you sort of retreated from the world.
That's the good definition of it, yep.
And went back home
Yeah.
to your
My
parents'
parents' house, yeah.
house in California.
Yeah.
And how was it to return to the world? Are you back in the world now? Are you involved? Do you have friends? Do you work? Do you have a career? Do you have hopes?
Well, this is what I think is I occasionally I'll get that moment of reflection where I can see and gauge and make a comparison of then versus now. Let's see, 2 years ago was awarded Social Security insurance to help
I don't tell her, I have to discuss with her, because if I talk to her, if I say, it's interesting, Autumn, you were late, but it's quite similar to your relationship with this Buddhist priest. In both cases, you did not, you missed a meeting, right? So little by little, we uncover her perimeter, her little world. Let's say that we did, usually it takes about 3-4 sessions to have a beginning of an understanding, and then maybe another 2-3 to have a better understanding of the perimeter. Now, by the way, you think, oh, that's Autumn, I'm different. I'm sure that each one of you, except if there is a Buddha here, each one of us has a perimeter, has limitation, this automatic, what looks natural. Oh, that's natural, you know. But natural means that it's automatic, often. So I'm sure that each one of us has their own limitation, their own perimeter. But what do we do with this? Okay, we did 5, 6 sessions. Now things are clear. Autumn can be aware of what happens to her when she behaves. She says, here it is again. Right? And one sign of a perimeter, it's very difficult to fight against it. It's very difficult. If someone is shy, it's very difficult to stand up and talk to people. Right? If someone is talkative, it's very difficult to sit. You have to make an effort. Right? And the same thing for Autumn. To make, okay, I'm now going to work, it's very difficult for her. So what we do, basic assumption is that the perimeter is not all of me. There are other parts in me. They are not as strong, but there are other parts in me. I am mainly this, but I also have other voices speaking in me. And here is something that I take from Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher from the 1st, 2nd century AD, a Roman Stoic philosopher, that you can engage, you can relate to parts of you and arouse them, awaken them. So if we can find even a little moment when Autumn was a bit different, here is a case where another voice spoke. If we can find not the usual Ran Lahav, but another one, yesterday afternoon. I can hear other voices speaking in me. Then I can learn how to develop. How do I do this? I use philosophical texts. And here I chose, in this example, I chose philosophical texts that are appropriate for her. So let's see. Sorry, it's a long session. And I had to cut it, so it jumps quite a lot.
Love is not primarily a relationship to a specific person. It is an attitude, an orientation to the world as a whole. If I truly love one person, I love all persons. I love the world. I love life. If I can say to somebody else, I love you, I must be able to say, I love in you everybody. I love through you the world. I love in you also myself.
And you will see how difficult it is. She goes to theory, she finds examples that are not connected. It takes time just to find a moment that indeed she went out of herself. She was with others. She was not just in her world, but with others.
It comes back to, for me, I can't help but to come back to this very strong feeling of this what it means to be a community.
Sorry that we cannot see the entire thing, but you can see it on the internet. So what we see here is a person who is mostly isolated, but together with the help of a text. A text is a good text can help us look carefully. She identifies moments. In that moment that she described, she was in some Buddhist monastery. She likes that, and she remembers being in a kind of meditation, early morning meditation of working, and she has the experience of being together with others. What she said, the experience of community. It's not exactly togetherness, because she doesn't talk to people yet, but at least the beginning of going up, I felt together with other people. Not bad, a good beginning. And now we can start to work on that. I will stop here, just if there are questions for clarification, and then let's do an exercise, play a bit with our ideas. But just to summarize, so the main idea is, what does it mean to grow towards wisdom, to deepen our lives, to liberate our lives. It means A, to realize the boundaries, the limitations, what I call the perimeter, what Plato called the cave, and then to realize that I can go beyond, because some moments of my life, some parts of my life, some elements of my life are beyond. Okay? And I don't have to be here. I can listen to those parts of myself, to those experiences in myself, to those voices in myself that are free, that are beyond, and try to awaken them. Okay? So that is the way I suggest, one way I suggest to go a little bit beyond my limitations. Yes?
Maybe it's a quite common question to you, but I would like to ask, what about problems that are about not having limits?
Not having limits?
Yeah, because sometimes I have customers that present themselves like people that think to be much more than they are, so they try to do much more of what they can really.
I would say that is their perimeter. That is their limitation. They have, Autumn, her conception, her philosophy was life is here, there is no external world. That person who thinks that he can do everything has a different, I can fly, I am everything, there are no limits. Well, that's a limitation, that's a certain automatic, he cannot think differently. Right? Automatically he thinks this way. And you really have to force him to realize, no, you cannot fly. Right? You really have to force him, but the automatic, the default is, well, I can do everything. Right? So for me, it's a limitation. For me, it's a perimeter. And it takes time to realize, and often it's a feeling of the rug is pulled under your feet, because you realize that what is most natural, what you do every day, is really an irrational limitation. People feel that, wow, and sometimes they argue, they try, but it's because, right, or they say, yes, I see, and a moment later they repeat the same thing. It's a process, it takes time, okay? But now in the last video, it's already beyond that. Yes, please.
Is there anything that is not a limitation? How do you define a problem or a limitation in your
Okay. I don't want to call it a problem, a limitation, what I call perimeter. Okay? Then, as I said, it is an automatic, okay, default kind of tendency that expresses itself in behavior, in emotions, in way of thinking, that is extremely difficult to resist. Okay? It's automatic, it's there.
Anything that is difficult to resist is a limitation or a perimeter?
I would say that a difficult to resist is an indication that there are some, what is it? It's psychological forces. Really, something inside you does not allow you to speak, makes you shy.
That the client thinks is limiting their freedom or something.
No, usually the client thinks that that's normal, right? It's like water. Think of water flowing between two banks in a river. The water thinks, oh, I am very free, look how I flow. But really, it's between two banks of a river. And once the water tries to go out in a different direction, it will see that it's almost impossible. We are like that. Oh, but I really didn't want to talk. Or Autumn. No, I just wanted to do meditation. They don't realize that it's automatic, that they cannot resist it, or if they resist, it's very difficult. So what is natural for me is usually, not always, but usually is my limitation, my automatic. Right? I usually don't feel it as a problem. It's not a problem. That's who I am. What do you want? Fine, I don't want anything. But look, that it's automatic, that it limits your life, that it limits your attitude to yourself and to others to a very small repertoire. Really, the repertoire is small. I don't think anybody can go beyond it completely. We are not Buddha. But we can open a little bit. We can grow beyond it. Okay, so, Okay, one more, unless there is a clarification, because otherwise we will end up discussing. And I would like to do the exercise. So, yes, please.
Is that rule that you're talking about, or the stepping out of the pyramid, something always desired?
Always
Desire.
I see. So, is it good to do it, or maybe it's a problem? Well, it's a very good question. I mean, all the questions are good. For me, since most people cannot completely dissolve their perimeter, I've never seen anybody, maybe saints or Buddhas, maybe, I don't know, then I'd say the forces of psychology, the perimeter, are strong enough. They will be okay. Right? If I make one step to make a bit more of my life, that's good enough. So I'm not afraid that I will collapse. But sometimes, for some people, seeing themselves is a problem. I agree. Sometimes a particular person, everything will collapse. It is always a question. Well, how about experimenting with this, okay? I mean, we can talk about, we philosophers like to talk about, but let's experiment. So here's what we will do. We will divide to two. If you want 3, but not more than 3, please. And just, sit one with each other. Now, the exercise has 2 parts, and let us stop after one part and then continue. The first exercise is to start to identify our perimeter. Well, it takes a long time. So we will do a quick exercise that goes like this. Think about some event that happened to you in the past day or 3, not more than a week, where you had some encounter with another person. Not a close person, not your wife or husband, but somebody that was not exactly a comfortable, maybe in the elevator, or maybe with something that happened here, in the other room. Some moment that was not very comfortable with another person. Okay? Think about it and give it a name for you. Let's say the person in the elevator or something like this. Okay? So just write down. Or if you don't have a paper, think about it. An event that happened in the past day, 2, 3, maximum a week. Not a catastrophe, but something a little bit uncomfortable with another person. Okay? Think about it. It's better if you could write in a very quick and superficial way of finding the beginning of the perimeter. Okay? Sorry, we don't have much time, so that. With another person. So one will be the counselor, and one will be the counselee. And the counselor, by talking together, try to find some interesting pattern or interesting idea, an interesting theme. One is a counselor, one is a counselee. Look at those events and try to find
To be ignored.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have much time, so let us take another step, okay? If you succeeded to find some common theme, there is something repeating there, right? Just as we saw with autumn. It's the same thing in different variations, right? How she relates to me is about the same as how she relates to her the Buddhist priest and so on. If you find something common, now try to find an experience where you were different. This special moment that you were outside. Okay? Let's try to think together. Anyone can suggest, anyone can tell us, can share with us what you found. Perhaps Peter and Maria?
Yeah.
Just a summary of the pattern, of the type of the common.
Yeah, problem with conflicts.
What about
That I dislike conflicts.
Okay, you decide on how you react. What is the reaction? What is your reaction when you have conflicts?
I try to avoid conflict. So if I think there is going to be a conflict, I'll probably just not go.
Okay. Okay, good. This seems to be the heart of a bigger perimeter, think that the perimeter is larger, but this is an element, okay? So, Marianne, oh, here is, so she takes a step back, automatically, naturally, right? When there is a possibility of a conflict. Okay. After 3 or 4 sessions, I imagine that the picture will be fuller and bigger, but this is a good beginning. Now, they have to think, or they have to find a moment where Marianne was different. Just as Autumn found a moment where she felt together, and suddenly a moment where she felt together. Okay? So now we have to go to the second step. In real life, this is several sessions, but we don't have time. So, a moment where you were outside. Let's take another example. Somebody wants to share with us? Yes, I did it. Again, just the pattern, just the common element.
I feel uncomfortable in doing stuff that I know will be hated.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
I feel bad in doing stuff that I know will be hated.
Okay, so I am constantly watching how others will look at me. Yeah, okay. So there is another person on my right, looking here on my shoulder. Oh, this is... Again, this is only the beginning. We don't know, after 3-4 sessions, it will be much richer and interesting and perhaps bigger. But it's a good beginning. So now, you two have to find a moment when Guido was different. A moment where he was free. There was nobody here looking at him. Right? A moment where he really was free of that. And maybe it's difficult to find. And you have to be critical. You don't have to accept anything and say, oh, this experience? Oh, no. It's not exactly right. Okay, so you have to help him to find the real good experience. Again, once we are attentive, once we can hear that the other part, I am bigger than my perimeter, I am bigger than my cave, that's the first step. And another one wants to share with us this common theme. Any other group?
One question, you mean where you were different in the same kind of situation?
Yes, maybe in Marianne's case, where she didn't have to run away from conflict. I don't mean that she was automatic in another way. Or in Guido's case, it was a moment where something special happened and I couldn't care less and didn't care what others would think.
But in general, it would be easy to find, but in the same situation,
You think it's
difficult.
I think usually it's difficult. If you look into it, usually it's hidden. But if you find it easily, that's fine. If you find it easily, that means it's not exactly the perimeter. But try. It's an exercise. We are taking many sessions and putting them together in 10 minutes. What do you expect? Okay, so we don't have time. Try to find the other, some experience where you were outside your usual perimeter. Taste of it and what to do afterwards. There are still many open questions. The basic message is simple. I am more than what I think I am. My life that I know is this. I am more. And what I try to do in philosophical counseling is to help the counselor realize that he or she is more and to utilize this more, deeper, bigger life. So, thank you very much. And I hope